if you're in a room with people, that you can focus on that one person that you're building up, and that it changes the entire energy of a room. You complimenting one person and then other people listening, just them hearing the compliment changes the dynamic.
One of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned as a leader is that people don't need to be fixed, they just need to be loved. You can choose to focus on what people are doing wrong, or you can simply focus on building the person up, and their actions and behavior will adjust as a byproduct. Words are powerful, and our guest today is a master at using them to build people up and make them feel valued, seen, and stand just a little taller. She's intentional with her time and energy and continues to use her influence to make everyone around her better. Maria's the kind of friend you want by your side. She inspires you to rise up, get into action, and max out your potential. She models servant leadership on a daily basis with her family, her friends, those she leads, and even those who lead her. Please welcome my good friend, Maria Evans. We're back on together again. When was the last time we actually did a recording together? It's been a while.
Just last Thursday, leadership training.
God, last Thursday. Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, I am so glad that you're on, Maria. One of my very best friends in the whole world, as you know, and there are so many things that I love about you. I think my favorite thing really is your verbiage. You have a unique way of speaking. I don't even know where that comes from. You have your own vocabulary. So communication and the way that you speak, I think it's one of your secret sauce. That's actually one of your words, right? Secret sauce of what makes you different. People lean into what you have to say because of the way you describe things. And so I love that about you. And I also love, especially in this last couple of years here where I have been distracted with some other things. You have the word, and I posted about you with this word before, was relentless, because you know that our friendship is important. You know that I'm important to you and that I have an impact to make, and you're not about to let me go. And so the way that you chase after me, even if I am resistant, I love that about you. So thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for believing in me so much. And the tables have turned, because I think at one point it was in reverse, right? It was me being mentor to
It
you.
was. I remember meeting you the first time and chasing after you, hungry to interview you and ask you questions. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, let's just get started with your background. Let's just start with what did your journey look like growing up?
Sure. So I grew up in like a smaller Southern California town, Yucaipa, and both my parents were attorneys. And my dad really created an environment of integrity, character, working hard. And my mom was very loving and kind and wonderful. And I also had three brothers. I was the only girl. My oldest brother, something that really shaped me was he was born with special needs and had Prader-Willi syndrome. And kind of the elementary years, pretty early on, my mom had started drinking. So I was definitely shaped by, unfortunately, watching her life sort of unravel because of the disease of alcoholism. That was a very difficult thing to navigate, but it also fostered a love for horses. I think I was sort of an escape artist that I needed to get out of the dysfunction. And so I rode horses. And that did later lead to me transferring from UC San Diego to UC Davis. In between there, we also, my parents went through a divorce and we moved. There was some really big critical moments in my life there where it was very hard at 14 to change cities and then have a blended family where I acquired two more brothers. So I had five brothers. It was the only girl. I was already a tomboy, so that just amplified that. And then went to college, didn't my first 2 years were at UC San Diego, couldn't pick a major, and then made a shift to UC Davis. I studied agriculture and horses. You can actually major in equestrian studies. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was interesting because both my parents being attorneys was kind of grooming me to also be an attorney. And I just had a knowing that I did not want to follow that path. And I met somebody on a bus who was talking about the Peace Corps. And I immediately went home and Googled the process to becoming a Peace Corps volunteer. And then my junior year made a commitment to join the Peace Corps and followed that process. So graduated college and my assignment was in Nicaragua. So went to a third world country, had a great experience. I ended up, it's funny because they warn you, like a couple people are going to get married. And I'm like, it's not going to be me. It ended up being me. I met a native, um, and, meeting someone from Nicaragua. We're now married, so you can kind of see that that's what I brought him home. I always call him my souvenir, but, yeah, so and that was a really critical moment in my life too, because I really had to fight for what I wanted, and it didn't really seem like a traditional marriage when you meet somebody out of a town of 300 people who doesn't speak your normal language, like, just a totally different culture, but I knew what I wanted, and so and then came back into the United States. That's when I got introduced to the Mary Kay opportunity and really started falling in love with growth and leadership and figuring out who I was and what I wanted.
Yeah. You just like hit so many things that we could go off on a tangent on for sure. But I think your background is so interesting. There's so many things about it that are unusual, not your normal thing for most people. And so all of those things I think allowed you to take shape to become who you are today. So can we go back just like for a second?
Of course.
Because there was a lot of dynamics in your family, obviously, that drove you to new things. But your mom as an alcoholic, how did that affect the dynamics of your family? Did it contribute to your leadership abilities today or your ability to navigate chaos?
Mhm. I think absolutely. I think one of the skills I've learned is emotional management, but also early on, just having to sort of fend for ourselves. There was a lot of times when my mom wasn't present or
Mm,
not capable of kind of doing the household things. And so there was definitely a high level of responsibility. I also think I was really blessed that my dad created an environment of character integrity. Like we knew our values. We knew it was really important to stand up for John Michael because he sometimes couldn't stand up for himself, being special needs. But also that we were expected to get good grades and achieve and do well in school. And so those were things that I think I could have really gone a different path without the supervision at home. But my
yeah,
dad had laid such a strong foundation of what the expectations were in our family. Also really I was reflecting back, it was really valuable, like, my last name is Evans, which it still is. That has a cute story too, but that he really, like, you were proud to be an Evans, you were proud of who you came from, even though the disease really diminished who my mom was over the time. My dad always made it a point to remind us that she was intelligent and smart and kind and artistic. And so saying you came from those good genes, like be proud of who you are, even though
mm,
it was not it was not a healthy environment. And I watched a lot of painful things happen and watched her
yeah,
lose her kids and life. And it was a
yeah.
rough journey.
I admire your dad for instilling in you the difference between a behavior or a disease and a person.
Mm.
So just how you described she is not alcoholic. She does not that is not her. It's just part of something. It was just a disease. Not just, obviously it's a very big part of who she is, but the way that you are describing how he described her, does that contribute to how it's not that you don't take responsibility for your behaviors, but it allows you to be more secure about be more have more self-esteem, things like that.
I think I definitely had to work on my self-esteem and work on my self-worth. But it definitely later in life, like years later, came back around when I realized how powerful words are and what you speak over people.
Yeah.
And there was a time when I was very mad at my dad for saying these things. And I'm like, that is not who we see. You know,
Mm,
in reality, there's a lot of moments where you see she's been homeless. She lost her legs, like had her legs amputated. Like, so you can physically see it was just a hard thing to watch. But then when you really think about her core qualities, like you're saying, separating the disease,
right.
but it allowed me to see the best in people, which I now use all the time to make an impact. Uh,
Yes.
so I definitely learned from it. And then, as you say, the emotional, I'm able to deal with a lot of chaos and compartmentalize and then navigate life and be there for other people when there can be a lot of craziness happening behind the scenes.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And okay, so then horses is a big part of who you are even today, obviously. I know that it's part of your why and the thing. So how did you find horses? How was that your escape when you were growing up?
I was thinking about this too. I think certain people are just like born with this horse gene where they just love horses. Because I just remember, I mean, having an infatuation with wanting a pony and being around horses since I was little, like that, I think was just a natural thing I just loved.
Uh-huh.
But when things were rocky at home,
Mm.
it was my place to go outside and be around the animals. And I feel like there's a lot of healing around horses. And for me, just I re-energize alone, and I would go out to the horse barn and have hours and hours by myself. And I think it gave me a lot of time to process and think and heal and not be like I was removing myself from an unhealthy environment as well.
So
So
that is a powerful skill, actually, is to recognize when an environment you're in is not healthy and regroup somewhere else.
yes, definitely a lot of regrouping, just sitting out with the
Yeah.
horses and being around the animals. Yes.
Yeah. All right. And then you can't skip over that you brought home a souvenir from Nicaragua.
I know, right?
I
So
mean, part of who you are is you've always fought for what you believe in. So tell us a little bit more about that. What
yeah,
does it
I
look
think
like when you stand up for something that you believe in?
for me, it's important for me to trust intuition. And then I have a deep knowing. It was sort of like I just knew that I wasn't going to be a lawyer, even though my dad was like, this is a great path. It was a great career for him. Right. And so in college, I just knew like, no, that's not for me. And the same thing I heard about the Peace Corps. And there was just a knowing of this is right for me. I'm going to do it. And
Yeah.
it didn't really make any sense. But I just knew. And then once you go to the recruiter office and they kind of explained a little bit more about what the process is, and you're going to go to a third world country, you're going to live for 2.5 years, you're going to learn a language. I just was even more drawn to it.
Yeah.
And then I went to go serve the community. I'm going to get volunteer experience. I'm going to be fluent in another language. This is going to serve me later in life. And it'll be a great experience. I had no intention of falling in love. But the moment I met Erwin, I knew. And I mean, I didn't even believe in love at first sight or like any of that stuff. But I had the butterflies and there was just this instant connection. And then I really figured out when I wanted to bring him home that, hey, this is something people back at home didn't really understand. They hadn't been walking in my shoes or been around him. It seems really foreign to fall in love with a native and then bring this person to America. And so I really I had a lot of pushback. I didn't have many people in my corner
Yeah.
that were pro, bringing him home. And so that's where I kind of found that, like you were saying, like find your fight. And I'm the one that's going to live my life, not them. It's my person that I'm going to live with. So I had to really
Yeah.
show up, stand up, and say, I'm doing this.
I
And
love that. Find your fight. But we talk about this all the time that your dream, your vision was given to you and it only needs to make sense to you. But it still takes courage. It still takes, quite a bit of, I'm going to stand up for this when no one else is in your corner or very few people are in your corner to just trust that knowing, trust your intuition. Do you feel like that is something that women don't do often
I mean, I
enough?
think it can be really easy to give in to mine was parental parents. I mean, my dad and bonus mom were definitely sitting down and having conversations of like, let's really think this through. I don't
Yeah.
think this is the best trajectory for your life. But so I definitely think you can be affected by other people's persuasion,
Right.
but that it's really powerful to trust yourself when you know what I just knew.
Yeah.
We leave now, and it's fun to have proof when I'm like, boom, we've been married for 15 years. We have two
Yeah.
beautiful children,
Yeah.
and the people that weren't supportive have totally come around and are, oh,
Yeah.
we love him. It's wonderful. And I kind of sometimes think, well, back in the day,
You were not so supportive back in the day.
but
Yeah.
it made me even more passionate because I had to do things alone. I had to get an affidavit of support and file immigration paperwork alone without,
Yeah.
I mean, luckily I had worked in my dad's law office. So I do feel like life gives you skills. And then later
Yeah.
I knew how to fill out all the forms and I did it myself because I had worked in the law office.
I love that. I know. We do. We learn skills along the way that we don't even realize at some point in our lives will benefit us. And sometimes they're random and they're not so random after all.
Right. Right.
So then you came home and tell us the story. So you and I know each other because of our Mary Kay business. We're both entrepreneurs. And so tell us the story of how that started. Was that something that everybody supported you on as well when you first got started?
Oh my gosh. So my bonus mom, so, so nice. When I came home, it was rough. I was looking rough. I mean, I'd been in the third world country. So she had become best friends with a Mary Kay director. And so took me to experience all the products. And the skincare really did. She bought everything for me. The skincare did transform my face. But I also saw an opportunity and I needed to make money to do this affidavit of support to get Irwin. And so I marched myself over to the Mary Kay lady's house and I had revamped a flyer. I did get beautiful creativity genes from my mom. And I don't know what got into me. When I knocked on her door and was like, I think this could help you in your business. I didn't know how successful she had been, anything, but she offered to help me. She said I needed help. She needed help in her office. So I started working in her office. And that's when I got exposed to kind of the behind the scenes and watching what she did, watching a very viable income, watching her empower women. And so I didn't own a dress. Back to that five boys. I was rough around the edges, but we were doing an event. I had to go buy a dress, and I watched her love on women and elevate the room with her thoughts and energy. I watched her make money, and I thought, I am not going to work for you. Like, I'm going to do this and make the money like you're making. And so again, just a knowing that I'm going to knock on her door and say, I want to do the other side of things.
Yeah.
So,
I
oh my God.
this is a trait I love about you. You don't have to know the entire picture first. You see something and you go after it and then you figure it out as you go. I mean, you did that your whole life and you can see a pattern in it. So this was just, I'm going to make money. Didn't ask more questions about it. Didn't know anything about the leadership side of it quite yet, right? It was literally just one thing.
Right. Well, and then I get in and I think, oh wow, like these women are so there was something that drew me. So sort of like I found out about the Peace Corps and there were certain things that I felt this aligns with my values or I want to do this. So the same thing sort of happened where the environment was very uncomfortable for me. I think I had been living like so low and a little more negative but I was elevated by being around the women. So I was at a place where I really hadn't built up my self-worth yet and felt like I had to work to earn things. But there was a positivity in the Mary Kay culture, in the entrepreneurial industry that I was drawn to. It was very uncomfortable. Right. And
Yeah.
here you really think physically, I was jeans and like a male Hanes white shirt, you guys. Okay. I mean, and not even women's sandals, right? And then you have these sugar sharp business women who are dressing nice, but also this level of positivity and people going somewhere and goals and vision and the things they talked about it was so uncomfortable for me, but I wanted it. I was like, okay, I want to be around this. It really
Yeah.
made me realize, well, and I'd also just come from poverty. I mean, a third world country, people washing their
Mhm.
clothes in a river on a rock. Like it was a drastic change, but I was drawn
Yeah.
to it for sure.
Yes. So, I mean, I think we need to watch that. There are oftentimes that we get uncomfortable and is stopping to think, am I uncomfortable because this is bad or am I uncomfortable because this is something I should be going after?
Mhm.
So that is so powerful that you are drawn to things and that you just allow it to happen. Go after it.
It's like our friendship. I just was drawn to you, Claire, and then
I know. Go in that direction because so you started American business. How long were you in your business before we met? Do you have any idea? I think
I think
you were like in the mid leadership position at that point.
yeah, if I was so I think maybe a year and a half in ish, there was, the power of going to an event to learn and grow is just amazing to put yourself in that environment.
Yeah.
And I remember my mentor Maria telling me about you coming and for me to get around another leader in the company. I remember just being so hungry for like
You
I
were
mean
so
almost
hungry.
like a bulldozer. Like Claire came in the door and I was like, her, I need to talk to her. I need to pick her brain. I need to ask the questions. And I was just like, I mean, and it's funny because I still have that quality that if I'm going to an event with a specific intention, it's like, watch out. Maria's
Yeah.
coming for you because there's something very specific I wanted to learn and extract. Like I was in extraction mode where I'm like, all right,
Yes.
Claire Mason, sit down. And I just wanted to learn and absorb the
Yes.
information.
You asked so many questions. It was awesome.
Great.
But
Glad
I
to.
have to tell you, as a leader, as someone who is in the leadership position, there is nothing more attractive to a leader than someone who is hungry to learn,
Mhm.
right? Because we want that's why we exist. It's to help raise people up. It's to help develop leaders. So when someone is clearly ready, it's so much fun to work with. So I was like, yes, bring it on, girl, bring it on.
It was a very fun time.
Have you been how long have you been a leader now, Mary Kay, or in the leadership position?
I think about 10 years.
Okay, so in 10 years, and you and I just had a very significant thing happen in our business. Our mentor, mine of 20 years, yours of 10, relaunched. But I know that we both have learned a lot from her as a leader. So let's dive into some leadership traits. So, what are some things that you learned from her? Maybe your most critical things that have made the biggest difference for you?
Yeah, really a huge thing that I learned is the power of affirmation. And just, I think we touched on a little bit with this quality that my dad had, and then our leader Stacy just amplified by how powerful it is that you can build people up with your words. And so I just loved because somebody did it for me in that environment, in that culture, and then watching women completely transform and feel more powerful just by having someone pour into them and notice them. Notice, because I think that's another thing that I watched our leader do, which was recognize people for their gifts, and then it amplified who they were. Like, oh yeah, just sometimes you need to be reminded that you are set apart and there's something that you do that's really really special that other people don't do. And
Yeah.
seeing that in you, verbally telling it to you, putting you in an environment that you feel love for who you are, that's another beautiful gifting. That it's not, not trying to mold you into something else. I'm recognizing how you're woven together, what you do so special, and empowering you to go out and spread that and do that. So that
Right.
game changing quality.
So the power of making people be seen and valued. Let's dive into affirmation, because this is one of your your greatest skills. And I would say skill. You have to have a desire to make people feel valued, but it's an art, right? To be able to teach someone how to do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is one of the most valuable skills I've ever learned. So tell us about affirmations. What does that look like?
Yes. Well, and when I do latch on to something, I do love learning about it. So, really, affirmation is the art of building people up. But what I've noticed is that it's definitely something that you can learn. So it's something that's teachable if you're willing to learn how to do it. A tip I can give you is to observe. If you just watch people, and it's something that I'd love to do, is catch people being kind or catch people doing what they do, but then go up and tell them like, hey, I just watched you open that door, or I just watched how you complimented that other person, and share it back to them. And then the other huge thing, it's very challenging to do, but if you are when you are building someone up, if you can take I out of it. I think a lot of the times when we compliment each other, or you're okay, I'm going to give a compliment, you use the word, well, I think this, or I see this in you. If you can remove that and just say, Claire, you are a leader, you ask the best questions, you light up the room when you come in. You're taking you out of it and making it 100% about them. And the other thing that I learned from our mentor is eye contact. Like, really, if you're in a room with people, that you can focus on that one person that you're building up, and that it changes the entire energy of a room.
Yeah.
You complimenting one person, and then other people listening, just them hearing the compliment changes the dynamic. But
Right.
really being present, that's another one, is that the power of affirmation is you're being present and aware, watching what that person does, or looking at their gifts and strengths, and then singing that song back to them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is definitely it's a lost art, but also I think we just assume people know what is special about them. And haven't you found that isn't the case, right? That
Right.
people really don't.
They don't, and it's just like to be reminded, even for myself, it's just starting at the beginning of the podcast, just somebody telling you how great you are, but also, you guys, being a good receiver. there's so many times when we just block a compliment. And that was another leadership thing I had to learn. It's just as honorable to give as it is to receive, like allow that person to compliment you and just say thank you. A lot of
Right.
times when you're out and about and you're trying to say, no, 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 like people are already not accepting just what you want to say. So,
Why do you why do you feel like people reject it? Or they don't I don't think they realize they're rejecting it.
right.
But why do you think they do that? What does that come from?
It's uncomfortable to just hear how great you are. And it's right, like having someone just for some reason, it's uncomfortable unless your
Yeah.
maybe self-esteem, self-worth is already at a place where you're open to receive the compliment. And I've been at both places where
Right.
very low self-esteem, self-worth, and needing to be built up and reminded, and
Mm,
also being in a powerful place where then you can give it. It's yeah, people do can have a hard time receiving.
yeah. And again, that is part of that is being comfortable with who you are as well, right? Being comfortable with yourself. So I would say practice.
Practice.
Practice receiving compliments
Yeah.
in a way that allows you to actually absorb it, like feel it.
Yes. And I love to do this with my children because, watching for something they naturally do when they don't realize you're watching and then going out and be like, "That was a great job sharing," or something. It's just a great tool that you can practice with kids because then you're affirming a positive behavior and noticing them or, you want them to play nice together. So if they are, then you can walk over and say, "Girls, you're playing so wonderfully together," and that's great, keep going, versus just always giving them attention when the fight starts
Yeah.
or they're fighting over something.
Oh, that is actually so powerful. If you really think about reinforce what you want, stop reinforcing what you don't want.
Right? Because the tension normally comes when they've, loaded a bunch of stickers on a door or they're, took each other's toy or the dynamics but it takes intentional being present, being aware, and then just allowing yourself to sit back and watch for a few minutes. Because you can find that's what's so great about this that I love is if you just watch, you can find the good happening. So many unnoticed acts all the time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be something big. It could be you're at the park and you see a little kid pick up a piece of trash that wasn't theirs and put it in a trash can, and you could go tell the mom, "Hey, I just watched your son," or you tell the kid, "Great job." It
Yeah.
it could be happening everywhere all the time.
Yeah. So powerful. All right. So building people up, key component, key trait.
Key
What
trait.
else?
Okay, I want you to look at my list.
I know.
Yeah, observing what to do and what not to do. That's been a really huge one on the leadership train for me because sometimes speaking about observing, when you can pick out really great qualities, you can also be exposed to something where you're like, probably not something I'm going to repeat. And there's huge lessons in that too. Or, wow, that didn't really make me feel the greatest. I'm going to make an adjustment. So
Yeah.
constantly kind of being attuned and aware of those little tweaks to then grow and learn from it.
Okay.
So,
So, as someone who is growing as a leader, one of the greatest things is to observe other people. So, what would be something that you observe that you said, I'm definitely going to do that?
I mean, the affirmations was definitely one, being present, greeting people, not bring in your baggage. Like when you get an opportunity to speak at an event or um, be in front of other people, that if you've had a crazy day, you're not bringing all that in, like compartmentalizing that. But I think it takes before you walk in, recognizing, whoa, I just had a flat tire, craziness. Life happens to all of us, right? Or waking up late and your day could unravel where you're kind of off your rocker, you're shaken up a little bit because of something. Being able to take a few minutes before you walk into an environment and say, hey, I need to show up to serve. This isn't about me. I'm going to leave this situation in the car, at home, outside of the door, and I'm going to walk in and be like consciously ready to greet people. That's a huge thing because you can come in. The first thing you want to share is like, you guys would not believe, like, I just saw a car accident, or, life just happens, or I had a nail in my tire and that's why I'm running late. But again, you're making it all about you when you have they don't need to know that. I like
Right.
to always share that stuff later, like,
Yeah.
after the fact.
Yeah. You talk about this is actually a really powerful thought process of compartmentalizing, and you talked about it a little earlier too of learning that growing up. But for those that don't really understand what that looks like or how to do that, how would you teach someone how to
I
compartmentalize?
guess it would be, It's something that I now just do really natural, so I don't it's like I'm almost not even aware of, like, the process, but I guess if I had to map it out, it would be maybe even writing down or getting out whatever's going on so that it's if you have the time. So let's say you had something really crazy happen with your family, and then you need to go and show up for your job or be there for other people, or even just you guys walking in the door to show up for your family, right? Or greeting your kids when they come home from school or whatever that is. I would say that because the key is that you do have to come back and deal with it. It's not a good plan to just have this compartment of baggage and stuff that you were not processing. But whatever that looks like for you, and whether it's like verbally getting it out, writing it down, like doing that so it's out of your system, and then just putting on a song, listening to something powerful. You have the ability to change your energy no
Mm,
matter what, you're still in control. And you might need to go cry, scream, get it out, and then be like, okay, now I need to get it together. I need to walk in and be available to serve and be a leader. So I'm going to go and do that. And then I will come back and deal with this chaotic situation
right.
later.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. What else? What's another trait for you?
I think those were the main three: clear, compartmentalize, observe, build people.
Okay. What has there been? We hit on observe what to do, but we did not talk about what not to do. Is
Um,
there a leadership trait or something that you have observed over the years that you're like, definitely got to make sure I never do that?
yes, for sure.
Yes.
I think one thing is being aware of your audience. And to me, it just seems like general people skills. But I do think sometimes people, I mean, I'm sure I learned it by watching great leadership. But if you are in an environment where you're the one speaking or training and people are, you can read the room. You have the gift of being able to see if people are paying attention. Are they engaged? And if they're not, you can do something about it or change something. Or after the event, go ask somebody, what could I have shifted or done differently to be able to serve this group better? But I think there's a lot. Sometimes if you're talking, you're so focused on yourself. What am I going to say when I'm at? But people really aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. But if you just pay attention to people's body language, eye contact, you can read the room. But you can also change the room. So you can also walk in and be like, oh, wow, these people are in a funk. Using affirmation or doing A and B partner to get people to interact and break the ice. I think those are just skills that I've learned over the years by
Yeah.
people getting up and maybe oversharing information or not having compartmentalized and walking in and sharing all about a disastrous day when people are coming with the expectation to gain leadership knowledge or learn, right?
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever the environment is. So you can also learn a lot from what not to do. And sometimes for me, it's just a page in my notebook of like, I just watched that happen.
Let's make sure not to do
Let's
that.
make sure not to do that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot you can notice that's really great that people do too.
Yeah.
But yes,
So you are one of the most mentally healthy and emotionally stable people that I know, friend.
great.
And I know it's not always simple because, as you know, things happen all the time, all day, to you, around you, for you. So, what do you do to keep your head and heart in check?
Yeah, so input is really important. Well, and you surround yourself with the 5 people you wanna become. So, Claire Mason is one of my 5. Um, but, it's really important what you're putting into your brain, what you're allowing into your brain, what you're listening to. I mean, from music lyrics to books that you're reading to podcast. And I go through seasons where we do have time in life where it's blank space. So if I'm doing something around the house that needs to get done anyway, I like to have something good on in my ear to just keep my thought process healthy, because it's almost like I just want to bombard myself with positivity because the negative is going to come and be there.
Yeah.
And so podcasts, music, empowering music, words, affirmations, things around the house, like my environment. You can control what you can control by putting quotes up or goals up, things that are inspiring.
So you actually just hit on it again as well, but you said the words allow. You choose what to allow into your head and heart. So what do you mean by that? And how would you allow or disallow something?
Well, if there's content you're listening to that's making you feel negative or bad, you can choose to turn it off. I mean, and I'm very hyper aware with the children because song lyrics are things that there's certain things that I hear and I'm like, oh, whoa, let's shut this down. Versus, for me, having them listening to worship music or something fun and lighthearted because they're children, right?
Right.
So, and certain things you pretty much can control. If you're in a department store and you don't like there's some crazy like a disruption going on or the music is hardcore rap, which I mean some people love, but sometimes the message could not be the greatest. You can choose to leave. So I
Yeah.
think it's just paying attention because it's all going in.
Yeah. Whether you realize it or not, it's all going in there.
Right. But making a conscious choice of like, I'm very conscious about I mean, it seems like it's blank space, like a 10-minute drive. I'm going to be listening. I already know that I'm going to get in the car and put something good on, or that I'm making a phone call or whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
just, I'm going to be intentional about those pockets of time to be putting in positive, good input that layers me for the times when it's crazy and you really need it.
Yeah. Okay, so we haven't. I don't know. I always forget to ask about the family. So I know we talked about how you met Erwin, your husband, and then you mentioned that you have the two girls. So tell us about your two girls.
Yes. Well, Michaela is right now 4, and she's a firecracker. She is full of life, very expressive. One of the things that I'm cultivating is being able to express your feelings because it's not something that I necessarily got to do. So she's very expressive, and it's just a joy watching her live life. And Isabella it just turned 7, and she's a little more sensitive, sweet, but just the kindest, thoughtful. She thinks ahead. I just love that about her. That
Yeah,
if she knows I'm going to be working, she'll turn my little light on before I need it. Or
so
if her
cute.
sister needs something, she's very willing to go get, because Michaela can be very particular. She needs specific pajama pants. Bella will help her go get the specific thing that she needs for the evening time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just been fun, like watching their natural gifts and cultivating who they are and being a present mom in those moments.
I remember when you were when you were first pregnant, I'm like, I don't know if she's going to change anything about her, but you did as they got older for sure. So what has been the most fun? What has been the most surprising fun thing that you've since you started having your kids?
Number one was love. Like when I thought about having children, I thought about all the negative because I had such a high level responsibility when I was a child where I already kind of took on cooking, cleaning, a lot. I was just thinking about the workload. I was
Mm,
not thinking about the love. And
wow.
so I originally thought, I mean, this is hard to say, but I thought like, oh, kids are a burden. Like this is like time, money, energy. This is going to be a boatload of work. I did not think at all about the gift of just how much it's like your heart comes out and you just love, and then you realize how much you love these little people. And kids are fun. Like they see that's the other gift is children, they just have this childlike faith where they don't care what other people think, and so they jump in a puddle, they tell you the truth, they just truth bomb you, but they just love like little things of playing in a sandbox and running around, or the rain, or just watching them experience life so
Yeah.
full of joy and fun is really been an incredible blessing.
Yeah. They're unapologetic.
Yes, they're unapologetic, they're gonna
Uh-huh.
tell you how it is, no filter, but it's great.
You also, to some degree, are also unapologetic. I mean, we've already talked through how you stand up for things that you want to fight for, and your verbiage.
Mhm.
So, where do you feel like you were always unapologetic,
No.
or was there something that shifted? Because I mean, I already know the answer to that, but when did it shift for you? Do you know?
I feel like it shifted being in the Mary Kate culture that I was the gift of that is being loved for who you are. So I think
Mm,
that there's gifts and talents that are in you, but it's like being unboxed when you do expose yourself to a positive environment and an environment where you're loved for being you. And I think stepping into leadership was a big challenge for me, but it was something that I wanted, and it helped me step into my own power, being around leaders who sang my song back to me. That it just, I don't know if there was a distinct moment, unless you remember,
I don't.
that I think just slowly over time, it was like it started unraveling and then really just owning who I am and being okay with that. Like, this is how
Yeah.
I'm wired. I'm going to go live and do me.
Yeah. You know, you said this earlier, and I meant to say something about it as well, but you said that you are loved for who you are. And that concept, I feel like, is not common. So what we're used to in our society and culture is that we are loved for what we do.
Performance.
So performance, right? So what can you just elaborate on? What does that look like? What does it look like when someone loves you for who you are versus what you do?
Then it comes back to that affirmation thing of not acknowledging like, oh, you won the ballet or you're number one. It's more like, wow, you are so disciplined to do the work. It's a different type. You're giving that, you're building that person up based on their personal decision to wake up and practice ballet every day, right? So it's very hard to do because I thought I was raised in an environment where getting the A, and it was like if you didn't get something done, you didn't accomplish anything for the day, and your self-worth was based on your work, how much you got done versus just me. But
Mhm.
for me, it was faith. Like my belief in God completely transformed that to just say, wow, you're just loved for who you are. Like that was a huge piece of my journey too,
Yeah.
because it's not for what you do, it's just based on being like that. It was a very hard concept that took years for me to understand. And then once you get it, being able to pass that on to your children or to people around you is a gift. But it's very hard in our society because it's
Yeah.
very performance, what you achieve, materialistic things versus just who you be.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful. So we're affirming people not for the accomplishment, but for the behaviors that
Led to
attain
the
it.
accomplishment. Yes. And
Yes.
I catch myself all the time because your kids come home with a spelling and they got an A and you went, oh, great. But it's like, oh, yesterday I saw you working on your words,
Uh-huh.
right? Versus
Powerful.
just the A, getting just the A. Yeah. Just the 100%.
Right. Because getting the A may or may not ever happen again,
Right.
but the behavior that got you the A can happen over and over again.
Yes.
So powerful. Okay. Oh my gosh. We're already like so far in. We
Okay.
got to hit some resources.
Okay. I have
I can
one.
go on. Okay. You ready for this?
Yes.
It's not rapid fire anymore. I know. I forgot. Amplified resources. Right. That's what it is. The resources. We're on a constant path of growth and progress. And so, are there some books that have been game changers for you?
Yes. Okay. So one I have is the Breakthrough Code. This is by Tom McCarty. It's a great one that I go back to because it really talks about your bookends. It talks a lot about success principles, but in an analogy form. So this has just been a great book to circle back and come back to. And then I really was thinking about it. I love workbooks. So this last year, this workbook was new to me, but has been a game changer. And this is, we call it the ACA, Adult Children of an Alcoholic Parents. This was huge in that just identifying things and behaviors that were blind spots for me and really working through a lot of examples of just dysfunction in childhood and how it can like how it could just like show up later in life, show up in relationships, show up in parenting. So that was huge. And then the third one is the Think and Grow Rich workbook by Napoleon Hill. That was really good too.
That's good too. I don't know if mine is around here somewhere, but why do you love workbooks? What is it about workbooks?
I think a couple things. Writing in it, I like to write in the books, and so actually having it where it's interactive for me. As I do read and I like having books, but I think the workbook, when I was thinking about it, it's just because you can answer the questions and write it down right there. And then the ACA book, Adult Children, has where you rate yourself and kind of gives an assessment. So I like
Yeah.
that because I could see the progress and you can go back and date it and look and see, oh, wow, like, uh-oh, my boundaries are getting crazy again. Like, let me go back and read that chapter on boundaries.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because when you are writing things down, you actually learn it better anyway, right? You're processing what you're reading.
Yes. And knowing yourself, like I do verbalize things, really that helps me make a decision, but then writing down really helps my retention.
Yeah. Love it.
So I'm
Okay.
drawn to
What
it.
about podcasts? Who do you listen to?
Okay. Well, now that this one has come out, this one is on my list.
Obviously.
But before Claire had her Amplify podcast, Joe Dispenza is always a good, I can just listen to any 10, 15 minutes of him. It just switches, it just switches my, any
Like
negativity.
literally.
Like, oh man, watch your thoughts. I also like Max Out with Ed Milet. That is just high energy, entrepreneurial. Also, just he's great at asking questions, interviews great people.
Yeah.
And then if I really want to hone in on leadership or there's a certain skill in leadership. I love Craig Groeschel. It's very structured, very organized, and very like has a workbook type format where he'll have a very specific leadership theme
Right.
and very clear guidelines on growing as a leader. So those are
Yeah.
kind of my three that I go to.
I like it. Yeah. That one is his leadership podcast.
Yes.
What about favorite quotes?
Oh, yes. I have a favorite quote, and I don't know who said it.
Okay,
Our
let's hear it.
mentor in Mary Kay said it, but she doesn't know who said it. And she found it in Virginia Beach on a classroom wall, but it has always stuck with me. And
Oh,
that is education is not the pouring of facts and figures, it's inspiring your soul.
I love that. What does that mean to you?
I think it just means like you don't just shove a bunch of knowledge on people. Like you got to move their heart and connect with them and help them. I mean, my important mission is like help them unleash, find their fight, like figure out what they're wired to do and let them run.
I love that.
Yes.
Very true. All right. What does progress look like for you this year personally?
This year is more just, even though it seems funny to track, but just creating memorable moments of being present and then jotting those down, reflecting on them and growth from our last podcast. It was great just looking back at each month and saying, hey, where did I grow in this area? So I think as long as take the time to be aware of where I'm growing, it'll feel like I'm making progress.
Oh, from Dr. Todd saying, what have you learned this
What did
month?
you learn this month?
That's so good.
For me, I need to write it down. So I'm actually carving out the time because I can keep myself busy with life.
Yeah.
But I think it's that actually maybe just each month and then you'll look back and you'll see the progress of the growth by acknowledging it and actually writing it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What is one quality that you love about yourself?
And it's so funny what you said was what I came up with, which was words. I do love to make up words. And when I find great words that just work in my life, then you can weave them in and it's so wonderful. But
Where do they even come from? You like marinate.
Oh my gosh, when I heard that was
There's
so
so many. Yeah.
on that. It's just such a great, like, can't quite decide yet. When you but I think my love for words then comes when you can use it as a tool to build up people, right? As a vehicle to make a connection, as a vehicle to empower somebody. And so when you hear a really good word, and it's not like I don't even like the word of the day. Sometimes those words are I like fun words.
Yes, you do love fun words.
I don't like book smart, where I like fun words like emotionalize. It's when you like emotion something, but with your eyes, right? It's not even in the dictionary.
Well, because I think that the words you choose are descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
They're like they take a word and cause you to see it in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Like come into my circle of awesomeness, right? Like it's not a circle and awesome, but it's just like, I don't know.
I love it. I love that so much. Oh my gosh.
It makes people smile and have fun.
It does.
Like, let me just gift you with this little gift bomb of just a word.
There it is. Oh my gosh. I didn't even ask you, what are you most passionate about right now? Like why do you do what you do? For your business, and what does that vision look like in the future for you?
Which is so funny. The other day I was helping people with immigration paperwork, which I am good at, but I don't enjoy it at all. And someone was like, Ruby, you could be doing that. And I said, no, like it's, even though I have the skill set, it's not for me because I love the interaction. My passion is really people, like helping people uncover their greatest gifts and strengths and then inspiring their soul, like that quote, right? If I can inspire them by myself taking action or empowering them to step into their gifts, then I feel like I'm making a difference in their life.
I like it. So, all right, this podcast is meant for those who are ready to amplify their lives. So to live out loud and on purpose. So what question would you give them to ask themselves in order for them to amp it up?
That's a good question. It is just, how can I make this better? Like, what can I I'm a maximizer. How could I just tweak this and be a little bit better at it? Because those small shifts that make a big difference. And if you see
Yeah.
yourself through that filter of, okay, I did this activity today. How could I just make it a little bit better? Stacking too.
Stacking.
Hmm.
Look at that. We're referencing all the previous podcasts in this one.
Because you learn because these are you, yeah, because you get the
It's all
information. Because
stackable.
what are you going to do with the information if you're not going to use it
Yes,
and
exactly.
apply it? And when you do apply it or you teach it to somebody the next day, it sticks
Like
better.
we're gonna do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, well, what can we do to amplify your voice and where can people find you?
I was thinking about that.
You're
I
awesome.
do have social media. I'm on Facebook. Sometimes that's a kid festival, and then I'm on Instagram. I'll provide you with those.
Awesome. Well, I so appreciate you as always, Maria. Thank you for always making me want to be better and making me better just by being who you are. So, for those of you that are tuning in today, just remember no matter where you are on your journey, you are already enough. There's more to you than the hats that you wear. There's more in you than you can even imagine, and there's more for you just waiting out there to be received. So have the courage to take the first step and amplify your life, one day at a time, one thought at a time.